Hello all. So today I'm talking about a Toyota with the P0340 code, what it is and how you go about fixing it. So what is a Toyota P0340 code? Well, it's a camshaft position sensor circuit malfunction. And some scan tools will give you a sensor A. And so there very likely is going to be two sensors. Sometimes there could be one, but this is indicating that there'll be two and that it'll be the intake camshaft position sensor. And so more than likely the camshaft position sensor has gone bad and most people would just go and replace it, but it can also be inside the wiring, so that should be checked too. And most people would just go ahead and replace the camshaft position sensor, and if that didn't solve the problem, then they move on to the wiring. But the wiring is pretty simple to check, especially if you have a known good sensor. There's a quick way you could do that. But basically what's going on is older Toyotas had 2 wires, and some newer ones can even have 4 wires sometimes, but by far the most common is 3 wires. You have to Google your particular Toyota engine and year and get the schematics for it to know for sure what's going on. But the most common is going to be 3 wire, and what's going on with these is the middle wire is going to be ground, and then you're going to have a reference voltage. This goes back to the battery, so it powers the plug. So it'll be like 5 volts, 8 volts, 12 volts, whatever it's rated for, and it'll always be on. And then the other wire is a signal wire that goes back to the onboard computer. So the first thing to do would be to check from the ground to your reference voltage coming from the battery. So when the key turns on, it'll send power to the sensor. So you want to check for this first, ground to one of the outer pins usually. And if you're getting voltage, then what many mechanics will do is they'll take a known good sensor, they'll plug it into this harness, and then they'll go from the ground wire to the signal wire going back to the onboard computer, and they'll put a piece of metal in front of the sensors. And when they put a piece of metal in front of the sensor, it'll go from like 0 to 5 volts, and that'll say the whole circuit's working. So that's a pretty common thing that mechanics will do to check the whole thing. And there's some YouTube videos on that if you want to check that out. And one thing to mention, if you're not getting no power to this plug, no reference voltage, so when the key turns on, you should be getting power from ground to one of these pins, then very likely there's a blown fuse somewhere, usually inside the engine compartment, but it also could be up underneath the dashboard, or an open in the wire, but quite commonly it's a blown fuse. So if you're not getting no power to there, check for a blown fuse. And so if you check out all the wiring and all that looks good, and you're not having no issues there, then very likely it's going to be a bad camshaft position sensor. And they're just low-cost items. They're ranging like $20, $30. Jump on Amazon, give you an idea. So they're not high-cost parts or nothing. And replacing them on a Toyota is usually pretty easy. Sometimes they can be hard, sometimes they can be in difficult spots, but quite often they're just right on top of the engine. And so that's a good thing, because some vehicles can make it difficult to get to these sometimes. But usually it's easy to swap these out on a Toyota. And on many Toyotas, there's just one sensor, but with this sensor, it's indicating there's 2. So more than likely there's going to be intake and an exhaust camshaft position sensor, sensor A and sensor B. You can Google it and find out the exact location on your particular Toyota, or you can just swap out both sensors since they're low-cost parts, however you want to do it. But basically at this point would be time to just go ahead and swap out that camshaft position sensor. And they're usually pretty easy to swap out. There's usually just like 1 bolt, maybe 2. And a wiring harness, you just pop it out, pop in the new one, and bolt it in, and it's ready to go. And so that's basically it. I just wanted to give a real quick brief overview of how you go about fixing a Toyota with the P0340 code. If you have anything to add, please comment down below. If you have any questions, ask me and I'll try to answer them. If this video helps you, please click like, please click subscribe, and have a good day.